Okay, I'm going to mute myself and admit everyone in.
Yeah, put it to me. Put the screen to me. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Costas Kivelos, founder of First Access Condos, and tonight's webinar is something special. So over the past year, we have taken our time, and here at First Access Condos, we've been in search for a new market. Ashley, please do mics.
Yeah, I'm going through. I'm getting them.
Okay. So what we wanted to do is wanted to find a market that had similar investment potential as Toronto and the GTA, but was more affordable. And if we were lucky to find a similar or more favorable deposit structure, then we would start studying it, researching it, see if it actually made sense. And one market that we found was Calgary. So a lot of my colleagues, not a lot, but a few of them, they've been telling me that Calgary has really done well for their clients, but I didn't want to take their word for it. So myself and the team, we've been reaching out to developers. We visited Calgary. We did everything we needed to do on the back end before presenting it to our database and to those select few. So the goal of tonight's webinar is to fully inform everybody that's on the Zoom and the hundreds of people that signed up and are waiting for us to send the presentation to them, to inform everyone why we here at First Access Condos have selected Calgary as our next destination to invest in pre-construction condos. So let's begin. So the summary of today's discussion will include a history of Calgary's market, Calgary today, the future of Calgary, Toronto versus Calgary, naturally, because we compare everything to here, and Calgary's housing market. And then in the end, we break down some Calgary investment with calculations using actual condo prices, actual mortgage rates, and actual rental guarantees. That is big in Calgary, and we'll talk about that as well. The history of Calgary's market. For 10 years, Alberta as a province was in crisis. So everybody remembers that before 2009, the city of Calgary was booming. You could not find rental properties. It was basically chaos because there were too many people for not enough housing, even worse than Toronto is today, okay? I remember visiting a friend who's from out that way and going to ski in the early 2000s, and he was basically telling me that people were calling him daily trying to rent out his basement, et cetera, et cetera. There was a huge housing shortage. And then in 2009, we saw a massive drop of all energy sources in pricing, okay? It was basically a crash of that commodity, okay, oil and gas. And the increased cost of oil and gas production in Alberta also did not help. This shot up the vacancy rate up by 30% to 30% for residential and office properties. Pretty much there was a mass exodus out of the province, and that was because the province had one face when it came to their economy, and that was oil and gas. The unemployment rate jumped to 6.4%, double compared to 2008. That should put it into perspective for you. Net immigration, both international and interprovincial, slowed significantly. So this is what it was happening for a decade. Basically, Calgary was getting beaten down, as was the rest of the province. And because they were only a single tier economy, essentially, when the oil and gas sector took a hit, the economy took a hit, the people took a hit, the city took a hit. What did the government do? Now, the government realized this. So what they did was they did a few specific steps. They lowered taxes and created various provincial programs to make it more appealing to open up shop in the province and the city of Calgary. They made significant changes for students as well as the immigration system. So currently, the fastest way to get a PR is to be an international student in Calgary, okay? Way faster than anyone else. The timing is 1/4 the rest of the country. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to put high caliber international students, get them to do their studies in the province, especially in the city of Calgary. There's multiple universities there, okay? And then have them stay there. So let's circle back to that. Huge transportation changes, top level in Canada, by the creation of multiple LRTs and rapid transit. They created the best conditions for IT companies to grow, as well as educated and invented top human capital for high-tech jobs. Calgary had 604,000 people with a post-secondary degree or other qualification in 2016, okay? Calgary's population is one of the highest educated and youngest in the country, and that is very valuable. So not only are they highly educated, which means if the workforce is there, the businesses will come, but they're also the youngest. So if you train them in school, get them right out of school, then they will be there and continue to work for a very long time and grow with the city and their industry. Very similar to what we see in the KW, Kitchener-Waterloo, where the largest tech companies in North America and the world all have offices, and they recruit them directly out of the universities there. That is essentially what Calgary has become. The result, it created excellent conditions for development and manufacturing and the IT sector, highly educated young professionals graduating from the major universities, some of which are, but not exclusive, University of Calgary, Mount Royal University, SIAT University, Ambrose University, and St. Mary's University. Calgary has become the world's #3 and Canada's first most livable city. Wrap your heads around that. It's not Toronto, it's not Vancouver, it's Calgary that's the most livable city in the country, and it's #3 in the planet. So it is really a big destination point for quality of life. It has a large number of high-paying jobs, at the same time, the lowest unemployment rate in Canada. So if you have the lowest unemployment rate in Canada, that means that people are flooding there to work. And what happens to housing when it gets flooded? There is not enough housing and there is a shortage, and First Access Condos bringing you these opportunities. More than 3,000. Alberta is now home to more than 3,000 tech companies. That's a 233% increase over the past decade. According to the report, the majority, 58% of tech firms in the province are in Calgary. In Calgary alone, over the past years, there has been a flurry of high-profile activity in the tech sector, from Benevity Inc. landing a $1.1 million deal to startup fintech company Nail Financial $50 million funding raise. This is the place in Canada, besides the KW, for tech, and there are so many factors that makes it so appealing. Some of which are very good taxes, okay? The government there works with companies and wants them. They fast track building permits. They basically build office space for these guys in a matter of a year as opposed to years. They fast tracked everything. They give them a big cut on provincial taxes. They make it so incentive driven that it's a no-brainer that they choose Calgary. And then on top of that, going back to where I said, hold the thought, their workforce is ready, educated, young, and ready to work for them. Calgary today, home to more than 1.4 million people. Calgary citizens are young. The median age of Calgarians is only 37. So they have a young population, which means a young workforce. Calgary is the third most diverse major city in Canada, with more than 120 languages spoken in the city. So it goes Vancouver, Toronto, and Calgary, all very, very diverse. It is pro-business economy, friendly, no tax business climate to promote growth. The government in Calgary is working with the investors, working with the developers, and working with its citizens to make sure this city succeeds. Now, here are some highlights why we at First Access Condos think this city is a winner for our clients and ourselves. Someone very close to me just purchased a condo pre-construction in Calgary and just gave their 5% deposit yesterday. Okay, so not only am I preaching it, I'm practicing it by putting close people tied to me into this project. There is no land transfer tax. And here in Toronto, we have a double. There is no HST. There is only a 5% GST on your purchase. Alberta favors landlords and investors. there is not the landlord tenant board. It does not take you 1 year to kick somebody out for not paying rent. You do not have to spend thousands to get the money that is owed to you. It is quick and easy. Within 30 days, if someone doesn't pay you rent, paperwork's done, and shortly thereafter, they're out. And also, there is no rent control. So you price your product at a price you deem fair. So you are totally in the driver's seat without any of the strings and hurdles that are here in Ontario. And more importantly, the affordability. Rents are not that far off, but prices are almost at 50% of Toronto's. That's right, 50% of Toronto's. Future of Calgary. Council has recently approved the funding of 4 priority capital projects over the next 10 years. 1, the event center, an NHL level arena, new. 2, the BMO Center expansion, the expansion of the current venue. 3, Arts Commons and transformation, a new facility and renewal of existing building. And 4, the Foothills Fieldhouse, a new multi-sports fieldhouse. These 4 infrastructure projects are investing billions of dollars into the city and is a perfect complement to the current growth that it is experiencing. Think Toronto 15, 20 years ago, when condos were just starting to go up into the sky. Calgary is well on its way to being a mini Toronto or a mini Vancouver, but it is investor friendly, landlord friendly, and the price is very friendly. The future new Green Line, Calgary's light rail transit LRT line, is just shy of a $5 billion infrastructure investment into the city. And being an LRT as opposed to a subway, this is actually going to get built quickly. It's not going to get a decade. It's not going to take a decade like our Eglinton Crosstown, okay? Because don't get me started and my comments on corruption here in Ontario, and especially in the city of Toronto. I don't know what's going on in Calgary, but I guarantee you, with a government that's on top of everything and so proactive and wants to get stuff done, this will be built as close to on time as possible for Canadian construction. And it's a $5 billion project. Great. Toronto versus Calgary purchasing pre-construction. Now let's talk about Toronto. And wait a second, I'm not knocking Toronto. This is the place that made me my money. This is the place that I know like the back of my hand. This is where I was born. This is where I live. This is where my kids live. This is where I invest. But we got to call a spade a spade. And if there is a good opportunity at par, okay, or better for some because of the entry cost, then we're going to promote it. So let's call a spade and compare apples to oranges and see which one suits you better. Toronto, we have high prices, record high prices. They're not going down. They're about to start going up again significantly by the third quarter of this year. Mark my words, I am not usually wrong about this stuff. There is a 20% deposit usually required, various fees and taxes, okay? 50 to 60,000 on average closing cost. Remember, development charges here in the GTA are roughly 5% of your purchase price, plus land transfer tax or taxes, then plus legals. An occupation period might take up to several months. Okay, so basically you're locked in limbo at that time. And if something changes in your life and you have to sell, you have to wait until registration. And now with the new anti-flipping law brought into by the geniuses in Ottawa that always do everything wrong, not only do you have an interim occupancy period, but your 1 year expires after registration. So technically, if you want to sell something, you're going to be locked in for about 1.5 years on average. Now let's shift our focus to Calgary. This is a city that is a little spoiled, knowing that people are coming here no matter what, knowing it has the largest population in the country, knowing it is the economic center of the country, and that is why it can do what it does, Toronto, to Calgary, an up-and-coming city, dying to get people in there, dying to bring in business, bending over backwards. Let's see the difference. Prices are 2 times less, half the cost. There is only a 10% deposit, okay? 10% down as opposed to 20, and it's half the price. There is no land transfer tax, no provincial sales tax, no development charges. That's a $60,000 saving on average. Simple pre-construction contract without hidden fees. Most places give guaranteed rent. You have minimal closing costs, usually only lawyers, and some developers let you use their lawyer, so it's pennies that you have to pay, and relatively quick occupancy period. They usually go to final closing or have a very short occupancy period. So listen to the difference. For those of you that really want to get into the real estate market, and you should, because real estate has always been the best investment since the start of time. Nobody's creating any more land, okay? What we have is what we get. And with cities whose populations are increasing, with density begets the need for condos. Density creates the need for condos. Condos become the necessity, not the want, not the luxury. And that is the investment that we're in. We invest in necessities and we invest in condos. And Calgary, the condo market is about to boom. Renting a property, Toronto versus Calgary. And this is important. We're going to start with Calgary this time. No rent control. You price your product where you see fit. No automatic contract extensions. So for those of you that don't know, a couple years ago, the Ontario government passed a law that says if you have a tenant and the tenant stays on past the expiry of the lease, he automatically extends his contract, he or she, sorry. And more often than not, to evict them, you either have to be selling or have to be owner occupying. So basically, you're stuck with them. And to get a divorce, most often than not, you have to pay them, aka bribe them to get them out. You can get an easy and quick eviction process for those who do not pay their rent. There was a story on the news last week about a guy who had skipped out on paying his $5,000 a month rent. It sounds a lot to us. That's a lot of money. But here's the kicker. He had a Lamborghini in the parking spot. So if I wasn't paying my $5,000 mortgage every month, I could easily get a Lamborghini as well. Now that's not fair, is it? Because behind every bad renter is a landlord who is getting destroyed financially. That doesn't happen in Calgary. So if you are looking for a very safe first investment, and our first investment is the most important investment because that's the one that sets the stage for future investments. So if you want to be safe, think about Calgary. Legally add a no pets condition in the contract. It is illegal to say no pets in Ontario, but in Calgary, say you don't want pets in a condo, your condo, then it's no pets. And if they bring a pet, they get evicted. Alberta is known to be a landlord paradise. The government is pro-landlord, pro-investment. So if you need to get somebody out, the government is on your side and they do not vilify you and treat you like a criminal. Damage deposits are legal. So if you're worried that someone might damage your unit, it is well in your right to ask for a deposit, which of course should be returned if they don't damage it. But if they do, you are covered. Now let's go to Toronto, my home, my favorite city in the world, and where I make my money. Rent control for condos built before November 15th, 2018. So if you have an older condo, for those people that say, oh, resale is such a good price right now, and haven't watched my webinars and aren't knowledgeable and are ignorant to the fact that older condos appreciate like a rock in water, okay? They also are going to get into a building that has rent control. So you can only raise your rent by about 2.5% to 3% a year, but the cost of inflation last year was closer to 10. Automatic contract extension. I touched on this already. You're basically married for life to that tenant unless you bribe them to leave. Eviction process is time consuming and difficult. If someone doesn't pay you, it can take you up to a year to get rid of them. Again, not knocking Toronto. There is ways around this. We can screen your clients. We have a great team of agents that can assist in this, okay? So I'm not saying it's in the world, but we got a call. These are the facts. When you're investing your money, you should know everything. It is illegal to make a no pets condition. So technically you might show up one day to pick up your rent and there could be a zoo in your apartment. Damage deposits are illegal. So basically the government sets regulations and controls on what you can do with your unit. We are becoming a socialist state and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So as you can see, when we do this bilateral comparison, Calgary checks all the boxes. and is much farther ahead than Toronto on should I invest checklist. Hold on, this is a little blurry. Basically, what we see here is Calgary's housing market stats. So what we see is an increase, but I can't see it because it's extremely blurry. That is a little bit better. Let's work on it, please. Okay, there we go. Boom. Let's start with single family detached. Let's shift that over to the right a little bit. Centered, very nice. Okay, thank you, Sari. Single family detached home prices in Calgary. Average price, $680,000 in February 22nd, February 2022, okay? Up 0.3% from February 22, sorry. This is year over year, Feb 22 to Feb 23. It was up 0.3%. The benchmark price was 636, okay? That was up 6.6. Just under 800 units sold. New listings, just over 1,100, okay? So as you can see, in 22 to 23, Calgary market dipped a little bit as well. Sales volume dropped, and this was a countrywide phenomenon caused by the geniuses in Ottawa who decided to raise interest rates, further increasing the cost of living, and further making housing even more affordable by our mortgages skyrocketing. So instead of bringing down inflation, they skyrocketed. But what do I know? I'm not an economist. Semi-detached home prices in Calgary, okay? They too were up year over year. They were up from the benchmark price by 19.9%. Average price was 4.1% higher. They too were down in sales volume, similar levels as well. Townhouses prices in Calgary. Now, we're also selling stacked townhomes and regular townhomes in Calgary too. So we're going out to that market in full force, not just condos. So here, the average price was just under $400,000. That was up 6%, 5.5% up from the benchmark. Okay, again, units sold were lower, but actually they fared better volume-wise in compared to detached and semi. And now condos, okay? The average price was $280,000. Yes, 280. This is resale, up 2.4%, up 11% from the benchmark. Units sold was down 13%, but new listings was up 0.6%, which is pretty much flat. So once again, condos fared phenomenally well. Phenomenally well. Do you guys see a pattern here? My condos are doing great even in bad economic times. Next slide, please. Market overview for condos. Unlike other major metro areas in Canada, such as Toronto real estate and Vancouver real estate, as recently as 2 years ago, condo apartments were a relatively small part of Calgary's real estate market. Remember, when do you get in on an investment? When it's at the start or when it's at the finish? When it's at the start, and that's what we're doing here. 2 years ago, they made up less than 1/6 of total home sales in Calgary and a much smaller proportion of sales volume in dollars due to their lower prices. Currently, they constitute almost 1/4 of home sales in the Calgary real estate market. So Calgary condos are booming. They're the future of the Calgary real estate market, and we're getting in at a very early time, okay? And this is the time that everyone makes money. Okay, before we get into investment calculations, I want to know if there's any questions so that we can try to answer them, because I'm notorious for just getting off when I finish, and I'm trying to work on that. Any questions? We have no questions. Okay. If anybody again has any questions, we are going to send out this deck to everybody, the presentation deck. If you have questions, you can reach out to my assistant, Ashley, or email us, and we will get back to you. Let's start off with investment calculations. Number one, selling the property before closing, a 4-year strategy, okay? It's pretty much right at closing. Purchase price of $360. This is not a typo. We currently have 1 bedrooms for sale in Calgary in an all concrete building. Anything over 6 stories in Calgary is concrete. Anything under is wood, okay? In the heart of downtown, right next to the Stampede, one of the best areas for restaurants, shops, entertainment. pretty much right in the mix of Calgary, similar to the King West in Toronto, okay? $360,000 purchase price. Pay attention to this. Deposit is only 10% as opposed to 20. That's $36,000 down. We calculate appreciation at Calgary based on statistical data. Empirically, we put it at 6% per year. Profit before sale after we ran the numbers is $100,000. Cost of sale in Calgary, some developers give you the option of listing your property for free. That's the developer exit fee option. That way you only pay 2.5%. That brings your profit to $88,500. Okay, in 4 years from a deposit of $36,000. And how do we know if it's a good investment? 245% return on our investment, 61% per year. And remember, no development charges. So what you see is what you get. No funny business here. Number 2 scenario, selling the property 10% down after 2 years guaranteed rent. The 6-year strategy. That's 4 years of build, 2 years of ownership. Purchase price again, 360, 10 points down, that's 36,000. Market value on occupancy at a 6% calculation appreciation per year is 460. Closing costs 2,000, not 52,000, not 62,000, not 32,000, 2,000 just legal fees. Total purchase price 362,000. We have a mortgage at 324,000, and those people that actually seem to know what they're saying based on their history are pegging mortgage rates to be hovering around the 3% mark starting later next year and moving forward to the foreseeable future. So we use 3%. We used a 30-year amortization because remember, we don't keep these things forever. We sell them by the 5-6 year mark, and that's why we went 30 years to keep our payments down. That means monthly payments are $1,366 a month plus a $300 maintenance, $170 per month property taxes, 30 insurance, 200 utilities, which is a little steep. That means total monthly expenses are $2,066. We have a guaranteed rent at the project we're currently selling for $2,121. That brings us a positive cash flow for the 2-year rental guarantee at $1,320. But it doesn't seem like a lot, but your tenant also paid $13,735 of your principal. When you combine that, that means your mortgage could have been dropped by $15,000. Price after 4 years of construction and 2 years of guaranteed rent, $510,000. Profit before sale, $187,000. Cost of sale, $25,000. That's without the developer exit option. Profit after sale, you are going to net $161,820, which is, ready people, 450% of your initial investment or 75% return a year. And these are conservative numbers. That's right, 75% a year return on your money is what we can see here. And I'm not a snake oil salesman. These numbers are based on conservative forecasts with what's been going on in Calgary. And this is the kind of returns we saw in Toronto when we were buying condos in 2015, 2016, and 2017. I will answer these questions right after I read this Warren Buffett comment. I like to use quotes from Warren Buffett because he is the Oracle of Omaha. And when shit hits the fan in the States economically, all you see is private jets flying to Omaha to ask for his advice. Today, people who hold cash equivalents feel comfortable. They shouldn't. They have opted for a terrible long-term asset, one that pays virtually nothing and is certain to depreciate in value. That common cash and killing is king is crap. It is horseshit. It is talked about and said by people that don't have anything. Your cash in your bank account or under your mattress lost 10% of its value last year because of inflation. The way we make money is by leveraging. And how else are you going to make 75% return on your investment if you're not leveraging? So look at those numbers. We were getting 60, 75% per year forecasted returns with 10% down of a $360,000 purchase. So for those of us that have wanted to get into the real estate market, but haven't had the capital, haven't been able to put it together, this city and these projects are for you. So for those of you that are interested, we're also going to send out a project that we're currently selling. We have partnered up with some of the best developers in Calgary, Truman, which is the big boy on the block there, Graywood, which is also here. They've been in business for years. And then we have a special developer that we're going to be sending. And like I said, someone close to me bought a condo at this development. And that was the project we were using the examples from. Let's get Ashley to read out the questions.
Okay, so Hamza wants to know, do builders in Calgary allow assignment sales before closing? If so, at what cost? Obviously a ballpark.
Okay, they do allow assignment sales, and it is similar to Toronto. The majority of them don't charge you, or it'll be something minimum, and you're going to have to cover their lawyers' development charges. Because remember, the developer does not initiate the legal work for an assignment. The buyer does, and that's what they have to pay for. Next question.
How about condo maintenance fee increases plus special assessments due to inclement weather?
Okay, I don't believe that that's really going to be an issue. Now, listen, the vast majority of projects have minor increases to maintenance fees from the forecasted numbers. I closed on a luxury condo that was basically something I had held on to, and I was in the Toronto Star about. Originally, pre-separation, I was going to move into it, and then post, I decided to keep it as an investment. That is a boutique building, and their maintenance fees skyrocketed. That is basically a result of inflation and then interest rate hikes. Okay, but in all my other purchases, I have only seen about a 5 to 10% increase from the start. There is also a home warranty program in Calgary. There's a couple of them similar to Tarion that also warranty these projects like Tarion. Okay, so you do not really need to worry about maintenance fee increases until later on. And let me tell you, Mr. Singh, okay, and I love answering this question. If you're focusing on a minor maintenance fee increase and ignoring the massive capital appreciation you're about to make, my friend, you can't see the forest for the trees, and your focus is diluted and cloudy, okay? We need to focus on the money these can make us. If we can have positive cash flow from an investment property, we are laughing and should be singing to the heavens. Guaranteed, okay? Because in Toronto, that doesn't exist anymore. In New York, it hasn't existed in decades. All the major metropolises in the world, the AAA cities, that is a distant dream. So there you're losing money every month, but you're going capital appreciation. In Calgary, you should be making money every month and still getting capital appreciation. So it's a win-win, my friend. Let's not worry about the little stuff.
Yeah, he said he was trying to compare condo versus freehold. So Joel is confirming Calgary is.
I don't like investing in freehold, and I've told you guys that over and over again.
Yeah.
But we can set up a separate call, and I can tell you why. I have one house that I'm currently living in, and everything else in my portfolio is condo. I can predict condos. Houses are not easy to predict. They're usually viewed as a luxury, not a necessity. And because of that, you should never put all your eggs in a luxury market, because what takes the hit first when a market goes south, that is luxury items. And that's why houses took a massive hit last year. Well, my condos appreciated.
Yeah.
Next question.
So Joel just wants to confirm Calgary is only 10% deposit to closing.
Yes, Calgary is a 10% deposit at closing. Most developers do the deposit as such. You wire you basically get a draft from your bank. You go to the bank that the developer's lawyer uses, and you deposit that check into the developer's account right after you do sign, so the next 24 hours. And then at the 10-day, after the 10-day cooling off mark, just like Ontario, there's a 10-day cooling off mark, you go in and you do the same thing with the balance to 5%. So it's the balance to 5% in 10 days. And then the second 5% is usually around the 6-month mark. And then you're 10% in and you're done.
Amazing.
Next question.
Guaranteed rent offered for 2 years. Is that value set at approximately $2,100, no matter what rents are in 2027 or upon closing?
That value is $2,100. And if your rent is higher upon closing, you opt out of it, and then you take your own, you rent it yourself. Some of them also offer management service fees, so they can rent it out for you, but you decide the rent. That's why it's a guarantee, right? But with me, based on what's happening to Calgary, I wouldn't even care if there was a rental guarantee, to be honest with you. I'm very bullish on rents. Remember, I started buying 2 bedrooms in 2016 because I forecasted that 1 bedrooms are going to get so damn expensive that the average individual couldn't afford a 1 bed on their own, but they'd have to partner up and shack up and split a 2 bed. And that's where the city's going. Are condo construction deposits insured? Yes, sir. They are insured.
That's it.
Any other questions?
No.
That's fantastic. Listen, everybody, I was super excited today. I hope you guys felt the energy. I don't get excited like this all the time. It's been a while. You know, our market has been slow here. People are not realizing that it is a great opportunity to invest. And I understand why. I understand that Toronto has gotten expensive. I understand that there's concerns about interest rate hikes, concerns about inflation, and the fact that what our government is doing to combat inflation is actually making it worse. But unfortunately, we should remember this at the next federal election and vote people that have a little bit of common sense, because they're all pretty much the same, but a little bit better into power. Now, in the meantime, we're stuck with the people we voted for. And that's why with the Liberals, okay, and the rising interest rates, they basically really hurt the economy, okay? Jerry, Ashley's going to email it to you. We're currently selling Sovereign, and we have a couple other projects that have some remaining inventory, okay, as well. That's actually not outside the core of the city. Listen, what everybody should know, in Calgary, downtown rent is the highest, but the suburbs in some markets is very, very similar. So there's not a big disparity between the two, okay? So don't worry about it too much, okay? So back to what I was saying. Everyone was dealt with a blow from the federal government, okay? And this was all created by excess spending during COVID and basically telling people to stay home and all this, and we won't get into that, okay? Science again now was on my side. But what happened? With the rise in interest rates, okay, and I'm not going to say inflation, but they just rose them, okay, to combat inflation, we'll say, that created economic uncertainty, especially in the housing market, because people's mortgages doubled, tripled, okay, when they're about to renew. Prices could not come down in pre-construction because of high land costs, high construction costs, and excessive development charges. Remember, the city of Toronto and the provincial government take 20% of your purchase price. So it is not easy to invest here. But here we have a product that we at First Access Condos are bringing to you with 10% down, okay? Some projects later on are 5% down. But again, if you're buying at a lesser deposit structure, you're not the only one who's figured out this brilliant master plan, okay? They have risen, right? They have risen prices because they are near the end of their selling process. So it's two sides of the fence there, okay? It's not necessarily greener, but you have the option. So everybody, 10% down, great deposit structure, great developers, pro landlord government, no development charges. Every time, no matter which way you look at Calgary, it is a winner, okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. If you have any questions, and if I didn't ask any questions, okay? Oh, one last thing. What is the condo square footage range in Calgary, and what are the amenities? Condos traditionally are a little bit larger. A lot of these buildings are smaller and they don't have amenities. And as an investor, you know how many amenities you want your building to have? 0, because then your maintenance fees don't skyrocket. So these are investor-focused projects, smaller buildings, like I said, not massive towers, the most of them, okay? But as an investment, those are the ones you want to get into. Okay, everybody have a wonderful evening. I'm Costas Cavellos. This is my team, and you guys have a great night. Let's start buying up some Calgary real estate. Bye.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That was great.